Good morning. My name is Laura Fielding, and I am the Executive Director of Berets Medicare for All. I went live just a minute ago. It's still kind of early here, and I haven't had a morning cup of coffee. Uh, so I I'm here now, and the first take I interrupted the first stream because it was because I'm doing the same thing that I'm doing now, which is not doing very well. It's too early, but I got excited. It's kind of a full day ahead of me because I'm going to be on Amped Up Pod today. So I'm kind of doing more of these live streams than usual, to try to practice speaking and prepare myself for this afternoon. And so this morning I was on Twitter. Um, and I want to give an enormous shout out to Scott Desnoyers. Is this S silent? Tell me sometime. Tell me in that in our Twitter feed if it's silent or if I'm saying it correctly, Desnoyers, or is it silent? So I will read that whole feed here in just a second. But what happened yesterday when I went to do my kind of solidarity, we need more solidarity in the single payer movement live feed is, and I think I actually made a lot of really, to my mind anyway, a lot of really important points. But I had the intention prior to of just simply reading um, this one page, concise, all of the most important details of the whole Washington Health Trust that was given to me by Andre Stackhouse. I don't know if he and a few other people put it together, but it's very, very good. So I just want to read that, and then I'll get to um, Scott's thread. We were responding on a tweet that Susan Sarandon put out. So I'm going to just go and kind of read that thread and give an enormous shout out to you, Scott. So here we go, though. So, wholewashington.org. Who are we? Boy, it's so tiny. How am I going to read? How am I going to read this? I think I have to actually take these glasses off because they don't know how to do the angle of them right. Okay. So, Whole Washington is a grassroots, volunteer run coalition of healthcare professionals, activists, and volunteers organized as a 501(c)(4, working to create a statewide universal public health insurance plan in Washington. We currently have a bill introduced in the Senate, SB 5204, and are preparing for an initiative to the legislature. Our healthcare bill, SB 5204, the Washington Health Trust, covers every Washington resident with public nonprofit health insurance, the Whole Washington Health Trust. Provides comprehensive coverage, including vision, dental, mental health, and reproductive care. And I will just interject that it also covers some holistic modalities such as chiropractic, massage therapy, and acupuncture. And I don't know if people purposely leave that. Well, first of all, this is supposed to be a concise analysis, and that piece of information is relevant to me because that's what I do as a practice. I'm a craniosacral practitioner, and I work at a holistic chiropractor's office. So I care about that, and it might not be as many treatments per year as somebody with a really gold star plan is, but the number of treatments that working class people will get who have never been able to afford to go get holistic treatment because they can't even afford basic care is really substantial. So I'm going to continue to add that in as I share everything that's covered, that would be covered by the Whole Washington Health Trust is holistic care. All right. See, I am not I'm not capable of just reading something without interjecting some thoughts. Okay, I'm gonna find my way here. Um, okay, but let's read that again. Provides comprehensive coverage including vision, dental, mental health, and reproductive care, as well as holistic care. Makes healthcare free at the point of service. Is ready to enact legislation with with a financing plan and a transition plan. It's a 2-year transition plan. Enrollment could begin in 2023 if passed. Was introduced in the legislature by Senator Bob Hasagawa. Is co-sponsored by Senators Kuderer, Lias, Lovelit, Nagayan, Stanford, and Wilson. Major endorsements include Andrew Lewis, Shama Sawant, Lisa Herbold, Tammy Morales, and Sean Scott. How much does it cost? According to an analysis by Dr. Gerald Friedman, professor of economics at University of Massachusetts Amherst, our universal public system would cost $9 billion less in total healthcare spending than the $80 billion per year our existing system is projected to cost. How do we pay for it? And then there's links in this lovely, it's a Google document, but I've just got a photo of it that I can easily share on Twitter anytime there's this, because this just covers a lot. So how do we pay for it? Employer payroll contribution of 8.5%. Employers can retain ERISA plans or opt employees into the Whole Washington Health Trust. Employee payroll deduction of up to 2% of employees' gross pay employer can cover as a job benefit. Self-employment contribution of 2% of adjusted net earnings. Monthly premium of up to a $200 a month for adults or over 19 in households making over 200% of the poverty line. That's, yeah. So there we go. That's when we say that it sort of introduces a wealth tax. That's where we're going with that. Not long-term capital gains tax, but it's legal, by the way. It's all been, it's as progressive as we're able to get in there. So not a net long-term capital gains tax of 8.5%. What is the transition plan? Transition lasts until 51% of residents are enrolled in state-managed plans, regardless of federal waiver status. During transition, employees may opt out of employer-based plans and into the Whole Washington Health Trust. Transition plan allows residents to utilize the system before federal waivers are granted. During transition, employees may opt out of health security assessment or employees on ACA-compliant plans. How do we pass it? Whole Washington is currently pursuing both a legislative strategy and an initiative to the legislature strategy. We ran an initiative to the people. I really like the idea of running an initiative to the people. What I will say is it's smart to do an initiative to the legislature because we have so much, I think it's like 4 months longer to gather signatures. I think it's 5 months or 4.5 months for a ballot initiative to the people. We gathered almost 105,000 signatures on volunteer efforts alone in 2018. And that's monumental for just no paid signature gatherers. And we don't have the funding, nor really in my mind, I mean, at the end, we will probably hope next time to be able to pay some signature gatherers because now especially we'll actually need even more signatures the next time that we launch the initiative, which may not be this year. We don't have the funding for it. It's very, very expensive to print petitions. They cost about $1 a piece, and each petition holds 20 signatures, and we're going to need over 300,000 signatures. So if you do the math on that, we need hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we don't have that right now because people that are donating to us so far, and we're doing outreach to try to get, some serious money to back our initiative. But until we get some people that are willing to invest and help us do this, we're looking at $2 and $3 and $5 and whatever people can go on our merch page and buy a beret or some mittens or bumper stickers. It's just very, very expensive to to even just print the petitions. So that's where we're at with it right now. And we would need to actually we would have mailing costs in there because we would do a great deal of work by actually mailing direct to households because of COVID-19. So this year is up in the air. We may just be spending the year growing our coalition and fundraising. So we'll still file the initiative, and then we would have, but anyway, we have 10 months with an initiative to the legislature to gather the signatures, which is much longer than a ballot initiative to the people. Look, I got to interject. So that's it. How do we pass it? I said that we have legislative as well as the initiative. Okay, the legislative strategy. The fastest path to universal coverage would be for the legislature to pass SB 5204, but the bill is currently stalled in the Health and Long-Term Care Committee. Our previous bill, SB 5222, never made it out of committee, and that is now going to be the case with 5204 because we were blocked from receiving a public hearing, and I'm going to get into what I'm on with Ryan Knight later on this evening, that the Senate Healthcare Committee, which is comprised of 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans, chaired by Senator Annette Cleveland, collectively, that committee has taken over $1 million in corporate campaign contributions from the insurance industry, pharma, and private hospitals. So it is absolutely, it's plain as day why we couldn't get a hearing, and why another bill that was a commission to study the benefits of different ways of implementing and eventually moving towards universal healthcare. So that was a delay tactic, and we're all aware of that. They can pretend it's that we need to try and make sure that everything's perfect before, but I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and whole Washington is a fully funded bill, which, by the way, nobody was able to come up with a single concern or question about implementation or let me get Jason Call's notes that I'm supposed to have memorized. Oh gosh, no, I'll just get his tweet. I'm getting to you, Scott. So that's pretty much the page. And but I want to read this response by Jason Call because he can fit this simple answer into a tweet. And if I can just memorize this, it'll be golden. So this was in response to basically Sarah Hansen yesterday retweets Margaret Flowers. Look, I wasn't going to go back into this, but she says, here are a few reasons why it is harmful to pursue Medicare for all at the state level. So again, that's quite strong. Yesterday, when I did my live stream, I was like, oh, maybe I'm putting it too strongly. No, that's a direct attack on, yes, I'm going to read your comments, Scott. Sorry, it took me a minute to get here. What drives me crazy with these hearings? When I testified, almost every voter in the seats agreed with single payer. Yeah. So I'm catching, Scott, I'm catching you up on, and whoever is watching, and then I'm going to read our Twitter thread that you jumped onto this morning, just a few minutes ago. So thank you so much for that. The opposition testimonies that stood for the insurance industry were booed. Yeah, I have no doubt. I believe it. I mean, that's exactly why they don't want to. That's why they worked so hard here in Washington State to make sure that we didn't get that hearing, because they know what they're up against. Like they know we're mad as hell and hurting as hell. So yeah, it was yesterday I was tagged in this tweet by Dr. Margaret Flowers, and she basically says, here are a few reasons why it is harmful to pursue Medicare for all at the state level. 1, it can't be done. Current state bills aren't single payer. 2, it would dismantle Medicare. 3, states would not be able to fully fund it. They can't run deficits. And most important, so she's got a thread there. Sarah Hansen retweets her with, listen up, state level efforts don't work back. Oh, listen up, state level efforts don't work, backers. Tell that nonsense to one, marijuana activists, two, LGBTQ warriors fighting for equality, or three, Saskatchewan, Canada, state by state, SB 5204. I'm all for Medicare for all getting passed at federal level, all hands on deck. And this is exactly the point that I made yesterday, which is that, you have people like you, Scott, who are coming out and strongly supporting the New York Health Act because it is a point of privilege to think that we can sit around and wait until we have an uncorrupted Congress, and potentially another progressive champion who can mount a successful primary challenge. The best case scenario would be 2024 if Senator Nina Turner takes up the banner. But in the meantime, what are we all going to just sit by and say, well, oh well, guess what? 500,000 Washingtonians and however many New Yorkers who are uninsured and double that are underinsured. Yeah. Yeah, we cannot afford to wait. And that's precisely correct that the second that you look at the precedent in Canada, and then they move to their Medicare, they call it Medicare, not Medicare for all. Their Medicare system is for all, it covers everyone. That's the way it was intentionally. There's this wonderful clip of. President Kennedy speaking out very strongly that, that's where we needed to go with it. That's where all other developed nations had gone with it. That was the plan. That was right. And so now we've been stalled for decades on what essentially should have happened. What was the natural thing is to have it cover everybody. And it needs to be expanded and improved. So nobody's arguing with the fact that that is the ultimate goal, and all of us that are activists, you know, Scott, me, Georgia Davenport, all of the people out there who are fighting for this are 100% like, yes, pass it today. We're tweeting at Joe Biden. We're calling our representatives. We're doing all of the calls to action that we can think of to do and trying to grow our coalition. If we could pass it to today, but come on, let's be realistic. Literally, Joe Biden was installed. They derailed the Medicare for All candidate to put somebody there who would veto the legislation if by chance that we were able to run enough successful primary campaigns. And everybody who's been involved in politics understands what an enormous, massive task it is to successfully primary a corporate Democrat or Republican. Okay, so I'm not trying to be hopeless about this. I'm saying how damaging it is to turn around and say that state level efforts are damaging the movement. We are literally a coalition of people who are fighting on every single front with actions every single day. So when I see tweets like that, what I should do is just ignore it because that's really an old, tired narrative, except it makes me really quite upset because it is detracting from people who are desperate now, who have people that are organizing every single day for this solidarity strategy. Anyway, Dr. Flowers comes and responds to Sarah Hansen with, those fights are very different from creating a national healthcare system. Single payer can't be done at the state level, but only honest people will tell you that. So I'm glad that I didn't say tag. So at Dr. Gerald Friedman and Dr. Jarvis are not honest people. Dr. Friedman helped do the study for Bernie Sanders' bill and many other state level bills. So, okay. And Jason Call responds with, the whole Washington Healthcare Trust covers all residents and saves the state $9 billion. It has been analyzed by the Washington State Department of Revenue. Funding is sound. The only variance is for ERISA, and the bill will make employers want to opt in. This bill is effectively single payer. That brought crickets, nothing after that, and some other things, but no more response because basically that he nailed that down. We can't have these divisions and things that are like a slow drip damaging really, really good efforts for single payer. It's I won't ignore it. Maybe the good strategy is to ignore it. Um, but I won't, because I'm tired of it. I've knit too many red berets and tweeted too many times, and done and organized too many events, uh, gathered too many signatures, to have people, uh, literally throwing, it's not even cold water. That's more awful than that. So call it out. That's what I think. Um, Now I've got to find our thread, Scott. Just give me a second. That's it. Yes, and we know exactly why they chose Kamala Harris. This is not going to be, an easy fight. And in the interim, what I said yesterday, like, if we are fortunate enough to, I'm going to keep saying Nina Turner because she's the champion that I would like to see carry the banner as a progressive, populist. I don't know what she, I'm not labeling, or I don't know what she labels as a person who, fights for Medicare for all and all of these interrelated issues that we desperately need and deserve. But in the interim, we cannot afford to tamp down and kind of not elevate the groundwork that's being laid, because the problem in 2020, there were lots of things, but let's just say what we learned, among the many things we hopefully learned, if we can be honest about it, is that we didn't quite have the necessary outreach and infrastructure. Like, and if Bernie didn't have it, you know, with our revolution and with everything else, we thought, we had a pretty strong infrastructure. But I think what's clear is that we're going to need people to do a lot more real world actions, or one or two, or I don't know. It's tough to say, but one thing that I do know is to be really clear-eyed about it. If we want to actually elect enough progressives, and we want to have Senator Nina Turner have a chance to unseat, a sitting president, we need to work now, and we don't need to be, undermining state level efforts that, arguably have been the ones that are doing the most actions towards national improved Medicare for all. So that's why I was incensed by it, is because it's like, we're the ones out doing tons of groundwork. We're the ones that are out having barnstorms in solidarity with National Nurses United. So it's getting really old to not have that solidarity reversed. That is getting very old, and I'm just going to start calling it out as I see it. That the very people that are doing the most work on this issue, are doubling up their efforts and simultaneously supporting the national, legislation, the federal legislation, through actions, through phone calls, and then we're also working, having face to face, before COVID, and then now, as much as we can creatively still organize safely in the time of COVID, bringing new people in at the state level. We're going to need those people, in order to pass Medicare for all. So it is a synergistic approach. And so I'm just not going to sit silently by while we are undermined, attacked, uh, and marginalized, and kind of placated a little bit, but not given an actual voice or platform, being welcomed in as a necessary part of the strategy that we will need to succeed in eventually passing national improved Medicare for all. I'm not going, and if I have to sit on here on my YouTube in my living room and broadcast as many times as I have tweeted, that is entirely what I will do until we are no longer ignored. Okay, I see you, Scott. Here I am. We have arrived. So, this was in, response to Susan Sarandon, who said M for A to a tweet. I don't need to read everybody's Twitter handle. You can go to Susan Sarandon's feed and see the person. So she's retweeted someone who says, when I enter my household income less than 50K a year and zip code, these are the first and last plans that show up. I can't afford either of these. Both plans will cost 10K a year. Do you know what 10K is to families making less than 50K a year? And then the person has tagged at Rep Brendan Boyle, at Tom Wolf PA. And we've got Oscar and Independence. You should just go look at the tweet. I'm not going to read all of the numbers and everything off of there. So yeah, M4A, exactly. And so then okay, I see that, Scott. I'm going to retweet. You've done a lot of work on this thread. Even since I retweeted some of your things, you've done a ton of work here. Thank you very much. So Scott, you say, me and my family can never thank you enough, Susan, for fighting for so many people you will never know. Thank you for fighting alongside me so that no other parent has to learn my hell. Thank you for taking all of the shots and punches that you do. Hashtag no one fights alone. Hashtag Danny Strong. Okay. And then I think you, let's see, yeah, you made that an hour ago. So that was around, yeah, I can't, you know how it's sometimes hard to follow a Twitter feed. But I mean, you just jumped in here when I tagged you and built this up so much, Scott. So thank you very much. I had responded to Susan Sarandon saying, with an event link for Power to Heal. And so I say we invite you to join at Whole Washington on February 27th for an online showing of Power to Heal and panel discussion with Justin Jackson. It's imperative that we all know and share the truth about the atrocities Black people lived before desegregation of hospitals. Then I did a subtweet to that. At Captain Stack will be hosting the event and is still engaged in outreach to potentially add to our panel. At a time when the corporate media and politicians are telling us we can't pass M4A, I believe the cure is to show exactly how the civil rights movement fought to pass Medicare. And then that's when I said I linked my other YouTube thing about sharing some. I said I shared some thoughts about how much more solidarity is needed within the single payer movement if we really do hope and expect to one day pass Medicare for all into law in the wealthiest nation on earth. People can't wait, can't just be a catchphrase. Then I CC Katie Halper, Justin Jackson at Bree Joy, Proud Socialist. Please see above thread. I look forward to our interview this evening on Amped Up. Ryan, it will air Sunday. And then I said, thank you very much, Scott. Hard to follow everything. Yeah, thank you very much, Scott. Danny Strong, no one fights alone. And I did your sketch of Nina Turner. I save everything. It's all, yes. She is my Shiro. Are you talking Nina Turner? Yeah, she's definitely. And then you said again, Laura, I cannot take your thanks without pointing out how much more you do. You are amazing, never relenting, never tiring, always pushing forward. Much love, Laura. Thank you for always fighting for millions you will never know. Hashtag Red Berets, hashtag Danny Strong. And there's our beautiful Emma in the meme with, wait a minute. Where did Bernie go? Oh, is that the one that, oh, that's just the one that doesn't have Bernie's mittens. But yeah, she did several versions, didn't she? I'm like, I thought it was like he mysteriously disappeared or something. That means a lot, Scott. Thank you. I mean, I feel like we're all doing it together. We're all, whenever people talk about Twitter as not being real organizing, I just really push back on that because I have met so many amazing people I've met so many amazing people, including you, here on Twitter, and we have done something, because um, you and I got connected, and I started reading your story, your son's story, and then like I think we went on to Niall Elkham's show together. Is that what happened? It kind of just there was so much that we did, and then we formed like the little Red Berets Twitter group where we can kind of share, and and then I asked if I could send you a few red berets, and then you took pictures of yourself with like the Bernie sign, and I love it. I use it all the time still because it really is a picture of what in my mind what grassroots creative human real story real the real people in this movement are doing uh, for solidarity, because in one of your pictures that you did, you are wearing the red beret that I mailed to you, and you have on the button of Sema Hernandez wearing her red beret. So you're like giving a shout out to her in that photo. And then you have on your past New York Health Act red t-shirt. And I think it's so awesome how their symbol is also an apple, just like whole Washington's. And then you have a whole Washington button, and then you have your Bernie sign because we were still campaigning for Bernie. And it's like that to me is how the single payer Medicare for all movement is supposed to look. It's supposed to be throw everybody that you can lift up in this, everybody that we can bring into this picture. And then here in this meme that Fran, like Fran is making these, this beautiful, she's only ever comfortable with like one shout out per thing, but here she creates the graphics. And so we have Emma in this thread with the hashtags, and her red beret, with these hands. Like, this is really this is the people's movement. It's not, as much as I respect and thank Bernie Sanders and Representative Pramila Jayapal and National Nurses United. But let's remember, National Nurses United there's a board and leadership and all of that. And Nurse Bonnie is awesome, and they're doing excellent work. And there are also lots and lots of nurses. Just because they're all part of that organization, let's remember, presumably, because I know I saw at least several of them who I'm mutual followers with, supported Force the Vote, even if the leadership of National Nurses United didn't come out to endorse Force the Vote. That's a very, very big organization with a board and with a lot of, that they weren't going to do that. And in fact, it was a little bit of a push and a bit complicated to get whole Washington, largely because we were very, very focused on trying to get our legislative efforts ready to go. And so the whole Force the Vote thing, we don't have enough people to do all of the tasks that we're trying to do. We try to jump in and help every time there's something that's a strong push at the national level, right? And most of us, I mean, in fact, I would say all of us, really, it was just the fact that we were swamped with work. So I don't mean to say, it was this push. Overwhelming majority of whole Washington volunteers and board members were like, we've got to do this. We've got to at least make a statement, and which we did, a statement of endorsement or support for the Force the Vote movement. And so that goes to show that Whole Washington is an organization that is truly embodies all good efforts. Like, we have to fight every single day. And if there's a good opportunity, and not, they don't just sit around and analyze the strategy. That's one thing. I'm not saying strategy shouldn't be analyzed, but if it's at the cost of hampering down grassroots energy, sometimes you need to just absolutely move with the energy that is fomented by something. So the amount of time that some progressive media voices and people put into trying to undermine the energy that was being fomented by because people saw that as our one chance, honestly, our one chance to really fight our way into the national narrative and hold these people publicly accountable. Brianna Joy Gray had hosted Ralph Nader on a recent Bad Faith podcast, and one of the quotes that he said, I may get it a little bit wrong, is we have to make them say no. You should make them say no at every 8 times, as many times as you can get them on the record for saying no. That was essentially the point, and it was something about 8. I don't know. So I didn't listen very well, but I did listen. The point is really that there are too many people that get frozen in the sequel. Ooh, let's tread a little carefully here. We might, we don't want to damage the movement. What is the thing that damages the movement the very most is when you have fighters like Scott, who is out there relentlessly telling his story, his heartbreaking story. And we had Savage Joy and so many people that were coming out, and then you had detractors making it only about Jimmy Dore. And, the progressive left needs to stop with this thing of we have kind of a prima donna complex here, where it's like the people that are kind of like superstars of the progressive movement. And don't get me wrong, like, I love my superstars. I do. I love them. But there were a lot of voices that were not heard in Force the Vote. And I think part of that is because people didn't want to see those. The people that were trying to detract away from it were, literally making it a point to do that. There were plenty of tweets. There's no excuse for people not to have seen the voices. We were out there. Scott was out there on Twitter. Savage Joy was out there. The stories were shared. I came out, and I don't know how many times I copied and pasted and shared, and Susan Sarandon shared my video. All of us submitted our videos. This was not something that was just and absolutely preposterous and ridiculous that it was framed as just YouTubers or podcasters or people that are just online presence. Scott has just, if you read all of his comments here, has gone and testified. I went and testified along with other whole Washington volunteers and board members against 5399, I think it is, in Washington State. The delay tactic, the thing that they use to undermine and derail having to see if they were able to say, look, we're studying it. We're putting together a commission to study it. That's it. So you go away, 5204, because now that we've done this, we don't have to give you a hearing. That was their solution. And guess who they got to introduce 5399? Emily Randall. Her record, when you go and look at her PDC filings, she hasn't taken much or maybe any directly from insurance and pharmaceuticals. Her money is all from the state Democratic Party and the LDs and all of this. So in other words, like, she was a good person to introduce that delay tactic. They're smart about this stuff. This stuff is all by design. They have seen whole Washington coming. This is exactly the stuff they will do at the federal level. And listen, people, if we haven't practiced, if we don't have people who understand exactly how this game is being played, so people undermining one-payer states' efforts when we need our activists and our people that have stories and our advocates, we need this template in order to practice and learn how they play their game. So the people that are detracting and undermining that, they are actually the ones that are deeply, deeply harming this movement. Because I would never have testified in front of a Senate healthcare committee. The chair, Annette Cleveland, who's taken the most out of the $11 million, not $11 million, sorry, there are 11 members, still, it's bad enough, $1 million that the Washington State Senate Healthcare Committee, Wealth Care Committee, consists of 11 members, 11 committee members. 6 of them are Democrats, 5 are Republicans. Chair Annette Cleveland has taken the most, but collectively they have taken $1 million from the insurance. And maybe I said that earlier in this stream. I'm going to say that we are going to reveal these people because, as Brianna Joy Gray said in her, recently, well, she did it when she was talking about why we should do force the vote. She was listening to the Ways and Means Committee talk about in the testimony, like 11 hours of testimony, and she didn't hear any questions at all put to them about how much money exactly do they take from insurance, pharma, and the private hospitals. That's unacceptable. We can't do a national hearing and not have. We have to have people that are willing to put that on the record over and over again. And so this is the problem with everything being within the Democratic Party, is there's an unwillingness to go for the jugular there. And we have to do it. That is the only way that we're going to bust through all of this. Wendell Potter writes his book, Deadly Spin, because he was a PR executive for Cigna. And we have to be willing to go and look at these filings and where are they getting their money. And then that's when we turn around and say, so this is why we cannot, this is why you do not support this legislation. Can that be the case? That seems overwhelmingly the case. Follow the money. And so, okay. Just see. Yeah. People don't seem to think that dragging feet costs lives. Every day we don't pass universal health care, we lose 262 people. All were someone's child. That's exactly right. And that's what I was saying yesterday, is it's a real point of privilege to be able to wait for the perfect opportunity, which I think is a laughable argument anyway. It might have been an argument. It was still a privileged argument. 10 years ago, it was a privileged argument. 20 years ago, however long. Now, especially in a pandemic, and now especially with a president who said he would veto. And as we all know, what are the numbers of who we actually have in the Congress who are like uncorrupted or not running on corporate PAC money? Congratulations to us that we're building our movement and it's growing. And now we're hoping to get Senator Nina Turner into the Congress. But the problem is that when you go into the Democratic Party, and I sure as hell hope that's not going to be the case with Nina. She is a very, very, she's worked within the Democratic Party. She's been elected within the Democratic Party. And this is why there are a few individuals who do what they need to do. And Jason Call in Washington State is one of them. He is a board member of Whole Washington. He speaks the policy excellently. He walks the walk. He was an anti-war protester clear back when, for the Iraq, against the Iraq war. He actually was one of the people that was responsible for writing the very, very progressive parts of the Washington State Democratic platform. Universal, as you could see, the National Democratic Party wouldn't let Medicare for all within millions of feet of their platform because they know that that's another step towards it. If we can call them out and say, this is on your platform, you are not in compliance with your national platform. A platform isn't anything really, except it is another thing that we could use to call them out. So they weren't even going to give us that. In Washington State, it is on our platform. And that's thanks to people like Jason Call and Georgia Davenport and Melissa Knott. And, so I was really excited to see that Jason Call had received Mariana Williamson's endorsement recently. He is a fighter, and he is the one who did the research and got all these numbers together for the Senate Healthcare Committee and the $1 million that they are in the tank to the lobby, to the insurance lobby. So we are fighting this fight, and I won't stay silent and let one payer states that are working so incredibly hard also to try to, I had Dr. Jarvis, who is a conservative doctor in Utah. He was the author of the uh, author of the book, Purple Nation, Purple World. I haven't ordered his book yet, but because I mentioned him some time back when we began following each other, and I saw that he was in Utah, and I said, Utah, that's where I'm from, Utah. You make so Twitter is real. We make connections. We meet real people. We build coalitions, and I assume that's kind of why I hardly have anyone see my tweets anymore is because I've really messed up. I mean, the algorithms, I don't know how it all works with shadow banning and with whatever, but I tend to like tag a lot of people in my threads and try to coalition build by like if I tweet out this meme that Fran made of Scott or Emma, and then I tag him and I tag Fran and I tag 50 lines only, and Dr. Dooley and Nina Turner, and that's the way that I try to you hey, let's go over here. Here's this great tweet. And it might kind of, I don't know, I hope it doesn't irritate people. I hope I'm explaining the reason that I do it is to try to kind of have a Twitter coalition, but the algorithms don't like that I've done that, I think. Anyway, but when people say it's not real activism, it is, because Scott came out, we're on Twitter. We're strongly on Twitter. We're trying to shape the narrative. But as far as this point about one payer states versus national, Scott, you exemplify like you are the, I can't speak very well right now. Get off here. But you just really shine when it comes, and it's because you lost your son. So you aren't going to be one of these people who is going to come from this position of like, we've just got to work on the strategy and this is the strategy. And it's like, fuck, no, we need it. We need it now. So I'm going to go, you coming over and attending Healthcare for All. Thank you, Fred Edward, for subscribing. I probably shouldn't drop a lot of F-bombs and stuff, but I like the movement is truly like depressed and floundering, and the one payer states, organizations like Whole Washington and Maine Action, I forget, Healthcare for All Los Angeles. This is why I recommend, please do follow Whole Washington. And I say, please sign up for their newsletter. They will let you know. We need to break out of this narrative that it's just like people in one state, they're just doing that over there in Washington state. That's for them. And what about all the rest of us? We all need it. But Canada passed it. That's what they did. They opened the floodgates. Tommy Douglas in Saskatchewan over 50 years ago opened the floodgates for Canada, and now they passed their Medicare system over 50 years ago. We have to break out of this narrative. Everybody that I know, both online and many of the people that I've met online, I actually now have either had the privilege of meeting in person or somebody that I know has met them in person. For example, you, Scott, because you traveled to Oregon, not this conference that just passed, Healthcare for All Now. That was on Zoom. But last time, at the same time when we saw Susan Sarandon, the back of her head with her kind of paperboy cap and beret-like hat that I got tagged in, that rally was happening simultaneously, and so I was like on Twitter torn in two directions because I wasn't able to go to the the Portland conference, Healthcare Now, but Healthcare for All Now. But anyway, you went there and you met Georgia Davenport and you met Amy Vilela. And so there is an incredible amount of coalition building and organizing that is done on Twitter and other social media platforms. And of course, we know that what we have to do is also take this out into real actions and bring more people in, because it's too much. Like, those of us that feel very, very passionately about this are shouldering to, like, literally there's too much, there's too many things to respond to. So I would just say, please get connected up with wholewashington.org, because where you can visit and go to onepayerstates.org. So, but what Whole Washington is doing is establishing connections with other one-payer states, and there's a new real solidarity strategy that is happening, like Healthcare for All Los Angeles, doing a lot of amplification for our bill. And, this is synergistic. This is how, and we have to keep people's belief and their hope and their action alive. Don't tell me that we're going to keep that. It's a top-down approach. Like, I respect and will support Representative I fully support her bill and Bernie's bill. And I actually called Representative Kilmer 2 days ago, left a message. I doubt if he'll respond. I'll call him again. That's fine. But a primary challenge did not move him. Those of us that are really, really, really active, if we can say that we've called our representative or our senators 50 to 75 times, that's just my random number. I don't even know, like, especially during Initiative 1600, how many times that I called my two state senators. And I would always lead, because I know they're federal legislators. So I would say, my name is Laura Fielding. I am a veteran for peace. I served in countries where healthcare is guaranteed as a right. I am locally. So please, when will you co-sponsor Representative Jayapal's 1384? And in the case of our senators, when will you co-sponsor Medicare for All 1129, Bernie Sanders' bill? And then I would say, and also, please, as a Washington state, as a federal representative from the state of Washington, you should also know that we are organizing and collecting signatures for wholewashington.org. We would appreciate your endorsement and your signature, because we need signatures to get to the ballot. And of course, they always gave an excuse about, if they ever gave an excuse, which was pretty rare, but the talking point would be, I'm focused on the federal legislation, so I can't. So you're a Washington resident and you represent Washington state, and 500,000 Washingtonians are uninsured, and more than double that are underinsured, but you're telling me that you're focused on that stuff and you can't give us a signature or an endorsement of something that would, no, and of course not, because they're in the tank to the insurance lobby. That's the reason that they can't do it, and that the reason that they won't do it. So I'm happy to get to the point of one-payer states. I'm happy, and I do it all the time, still doing actions towards supporting the federal legislation. But let's get real about this. We have a veto president, and somebody right as his vice president who is there because she is also would be a veto president. That's the reason that she's there. She's not. That's the reason Nina Turner was not allowed at the table. Let's all be really, really honest about that. We have zero chance of either of them passing Medicare for All. That's the fact. Let's be very clear about that. So people that are saying, oh, we can't do like the one-payer state strategy harms the movement, is essentially what you're saying is, everyone needs to wait for at least 4 years. And that's the best case scenario. If we're able to mobilize everybody and get Senator Nina Turner on board to mount a challenge, the best case scenario is 4 years. So just like Scott said, 222 or whatever it is dying today. So when you make that argument that single payer things are bad or they undermine the movement and this and that, what you are saying is, well, it is okay for 222 people to die today, and it's okay. That's unfortunate, but we need to do it this way. And oh, I'm just still incensed about it. It cannot stand, and we have to have this conversation. I think on the left we have this sort of namby-pamby energy where it's not okay to fight like a fighter, like and this is what I also love about you, Scott, is like no one fights alone, and you bring this energy, and this is what the energy that Forced the Vote brought too. We need fighters on the left, and I'm not talking about like I'm not going to go, punch my representative or do any of that. But I'm going to bring the truth and the energy and the directness of we need this now, and absolutely go very, very hard at like, so if we aren't going to have elected progressives that are, if you can't be within the Democratic Party and turn around and point to your Democrat colleague who takes 300, I'm just making up a number here. I would assume that they take just at least as much as the state senators, right? And representatives. So they're taking somewhere between 50,000 and 300,000, hell, maybe more than that. I don't know. Those numbers are available. We can research those. And those numbers should have been asked about on that Ways and Means Committee hearing. And they were not. So and we aren't going to pass this. We aren't. The only way to go at that, and in fact, the way to bring a lot of conservatives on board is corruption. That is a big thing, that is a unifying factor, is to reveal these Congress members who are completely corporately owned. If you enter the Democratic Party and you are not willing to do that, then it's not working. That's all I'm saying. Like, that is not me saying like, okay, I don't see the value and some of the strength and some of the fight. I know we only have a few of them. It is not an attack. It's not an attack. It's saying we very much need the pressure from the outside, and it is our job to pressure not only corporate Democrats, not only Republicans, but it is our job to turn and say to these progressives, we need a hearing. We need you to demand a hearing. We need a hearing, and we also need to hear lots of questions about corporate money. And we just can't, but it's the problem that when you're in the Democratic Party, you feel like you want to make it a little bit softer and stuff because you don't want to alienate and this and this. So we literally have to, either with the People's Party or what is happening, and it's like a Red Berets is not going to belong to any one party. It doesn't belong to the Democrats. It doesn't belong to, I have people tagging me saying, you're a perfect fit for the Green Party. I said, I that's fine. I voted Green, and I'll knit Red Berets for Green Party people. Nurse Alice is a whole Washington former board member and an amazing volunteer. She is a Washington State Green Party member, and she's amazing. And she is a strong coalition member with whole Washington. And where's her red beret, right? So red beret is for Medicare for all. It's not for a party. I did send red berets to Nick Brana for him to distribute because I do strongly support People's Party and all good outside organizing efforts, because we need that. We need that kind of pressure. We need people who are willing to turn. I don't want to read about just how awful the Republicans are. It's getting really, really old. I want to see a tweet from a progressive, from an elected Democrat progressive, turning and calling out the corruption of their own people, of Nancy Pelosi. That's what the people who so strongly supported Forced the Vote wanted to see, because we know exactly who's blocking this. It is not the Republicans. By and large, if we have control of the government, we being the Democrats, and so that's not we, but if the Democrats control the government, then they are, actually, Nancy Pelosi is responsible for blocking Medicare for all. And we all know that, but what we want to see is some kind of very bold calling out of, we can't have Medicare for all because Nancy Pelosi won't even ask her House to co-sponsor it. She needs to co-sponsor it. We're in the middle of a pandemic. It's unacceptable that we have a House leader who will not co-sponsor 1384, which saves lives and saves money. Like, in my mind, progressives are either doing no good or they're damn well not doing good enough if they aren't willing to come out and turn and face the internal enemy and call it out. Nancy Pelosi is the enemy of Medicare for all. She is the ally of the insurance industry. That's just fact. And we all know that. We all know that. So, okay. I wanted to share. I did a beret for the whole Washington auction recently, and I was really pleased to see. I started the bid at 99 for the 99%, and I was very happy that it went to Bev Cowling, who is an organizer in Alabama who founded a small organization called Millions for Medicare. But they actually did like a rally in Washington D.C. at the point when uh, when the Republicans were trying to repeal the ACA. They weren't there rallying saying protect the ACA. They were out rallying saying fight for Medicare for all. We need to push for it. So because that's what you do when they're trying to take away the small crumbs that we have. You don't say protect the crumbs. You say we need Medicare for all. So that's what Bev Cowling and the coalition and the people that she was organizing with that got out to Washington D.C. But again, like she had asked for National Nurses United's endorsement for that. I still want to know, when are we going to do a national, and we're in the middle of COVID, but so many of us want to know when is a movement leader or an org, and I'll get to that. Georgia Davenport. Georgia Davenport is a movement leader. She's one who deserves to have a voice on the national stage. She actually really doesn't like to do a lot of public speaking. She says she would rather be on Action Network, and then she's out mailing these berets that people order when they go to wholewashington.org, and mittens, Bernie's mittens, and but she is a movement leader because she is growing these one-payer states, and if we could have, her dream is to have 10 10 states running a ballot initiative, so that we would have to make the insurance industry run all over the place, spreading their money and their strategy around. I lost my train of thought a little bit there. Yeah, just the fact that I know national nurses can't support everything and this and that, but really honestly, like, we, as in Whole Washington, Red Berets, we put together a steering committee. I had never organized any event ever. But myself and Washington Bernie-Crat Coalition, so myself and Courtney Love, and then a member of Tacoma DSA, and then a member of Dave Leith, who had been very, very active in local Green Party organizing. And let me think who else was on it. A couple of other people, but there were about 5 or 6 of us, because my idea was I'm going to put together, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm going to put together a coalition of like 5 or 6 people where it's not any, I don't want it to only be the Red Beret thing. Plus I need some help. And Washington Bernie-Crats, I was introduced to through Whole Washington, because they're volunteers, but we're all doubling up. Washington Bernie-Crats Coalition are all Whole Washington volunteers. And they also are out, we're out campaigning for Bernie. Like, we're just doing all of this work. And so it would be really, really wonderful if the strategy for doing this healthcare justice organizing at the state level is allowed to come into the national conversation of, hey, did you know that you can join one-payer states? Maybe there's actually an initiative or legislation or something happening in your very own state. Would you learn about that stuff from the corporate media? Of course you wouldn't. So you could just be just like me, who prior to saying, I think I'll knit Red Berets for national nurses and as a veteran for peace. And then until a nurse kind of sees your posts and introduces you, I had no idea. Most people have no idea that there's a one-payer state level thing. So wouldn't it be great if we could get more people connected up with people like Georgia Davenport, who can say, oh, actually, we know that North Carolina is moving on that. And let's put you in touch with those people. Oh, you're in Utah? Did you know that Dr. Joe Jarvis has tagged me on Twitter saying, hey, Laura, if you know anybody, seeing as you're from Utah and you're organizing with people, I'm trying to put together a committee of people who can put together like a trust, like that would the numbers that would work for Utah. So of course I tagged Dr. Gerald Friedman because hopefully he looked at whole Washington enough to know that Gerald Friedman did the study, but of course he's going to need local people doing that. But he'll also need local organizers. So I recommended, and I tagged Our Revolution National and said, what's the or who are the local Our Revolution groups as a start, or DSA, so yeah, the one payer state strategy is synergistic and absolutely has to be included in the national conversation because there is really no national conversation. Can we be honest about that? Just because Representative Pramila Jayapal is going to introduce her bill and hope, I don't know whether they'll obviously probably do, if we'll be able to get a hearing for it. We can't pass it right now. Let's be honest about that. Just because we're organizing for state level efforts doesn't mean that we aren't still going to fight for it. But we have to be honest about when we could actually move that legislation and what's required to do that, and the work that again, we have a strong coalition here of I know about Rebecca Parson and Jason Call, and we were all helping with their campaigns because an initiative process brings a state together, and it helps you to overlay and interconnect lots of candidates and issues and work synergistically. So it is a holistic picture. All right, I got to let you guys go. I've been but I want to show this. So I was talking about Bev Cowling, and this is just really fun. This is called brioche or fisherman's rib. So it's kind of semi-reversible, but I like this. It's in kind of two-tone, and then it's so funny that I put like two on the needles at once. There we go. But I kind of like this. This one is this is a really soft, kind of fuzzy yarn, but the color is very bold on this, right? Don't know if you can see it pretty well. I don't know. So yeah, the funny thing is brioche it's a whole new thing. It's counterintuitive. It is knitting, but it's more complicated. It's just a new skill, it's a new skill, and it's not necessarily one that comes super easy until you've practiced a bit. So I made a couple of mistakes on Bev's, which I was like, mistakes show up really a lot on brioche. But then as soon as I was finished, as much as I complained about it and the time it took and everything else, I couldn't wait to get back and do it again. So it's just so funny. Okay. Well, thanks for joining. Thanks so much for commenting. Let me see. Well, there's a lot of good comments. Thanks everybody for leaving comments and participating in the conversation. And I would urge you, if you have the means or we do sell the red berets on Whole Washington's website so that we can actually help fund their hour. I try to say there when I'm kind of speaking but I'm a board member of Whole Washington. So we are trying to raise money, grassroots money creatively. And so you can just donate. You don't have to get berets, but you are, if you go to wholewashington.org, you can order either a single red beret or mittens, or you can order an organizing bundle. We tried to make the organizer bundle marked significantly down, like to the point that we're not making any money on these, and the whole point is to try to help Whole Washington make a little bit of money. But we can't sell them to the 99% for what they're actually worth, But the whole thing of looking at the pink hats, the Women's March, the pussy hats, as the aerial views really, really struck me as like, look at that sea of hours of handcrafting. And so, whatever the criticisms, and believe me, I have plenty of my own, but that is what struck me in the idea is like that's hours and hours and hours. Although they are quite quick, like it's a quicker knit than a beret. I'm not trying to be. I'm just saying it is, and especially especially brioche, right? I mean, this is like this is really a lot of work. So it's not just cosmetic. It's not red berets are not just like, oh, let's look good in our thing. You can wear these to town halls. They recognize these now. They're like, oh shit, those awful red berets are here. They're not public option. Don't buy them if you're for a public option. We only want you wearing them if you're going to fight for Medicare for all. The public option is there to undermine Medicare for all and protect the profit motive. I can't stop you from buying them. So I guess if you actually, there was a woman who was wearing a red beret on the Senate. She wasn't on the Senate Healthcare Committee, but she's a single payer advocate, but she was testifying in favor of 5399. So I'm not meaning to disparage her. I'm happy that she bought a red beret and that she has a red beret and that she's eventually for single payer. But the irony that I was going to go testify against this stall tactic, and then seeing somebody testifying for, yes, let's make people that are dying and without health care wait while we study it for 4 more years, even though our bill has a study built in to it. I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to laugh, and I want to cry. Like I could cry, but instead I guess I will laugh. So yeah, people will wear the red berets if no matter, like Chair Cleveland commented when I told her, oh, the idea at least partially did come from seeing the women's hat, and she was like, oh, I love my pink hat. I hope I one day get a red beret. It's like, what? Well, then schedule a hearing for 5204, but she didn't, and they didn't, and we're going to have to circumvent our legislature. I have much less faith in the legislature than even some people do. But I think, most all whole Washington board members and volunteers are very clear-eyed that we will fight. We will fight on that level. We'll fight on every level. That's the point. We don't just say, oh, the legislature is really corrupt, so we're not even going to bother with them. Nope. We're going through all of the things to show them we are serious about passing this. You could do your job and pass it. We know they won't, but we were at least hoping to get a public hearing for it. And so anyway, I hope that you are all signed up to go see Power to Heal with Justin Jackson and Andre Stackhouse and myself and whole Washington volunteers and everyone who wants to be a part of the one payer state for national improved Medicare for all coalition. You are welcome. We are it does not matter if you are not in Washington state. You can be part of our community. We are building this for the furtherance of the movement to open the floodgates. We hope New York Health Act passes it first. We have no stake in, we've got to pass it first. We don't care. We want somebody to pass it. We just want to open the floodgates, and we will do our very best to do that here in Washington state. We will do our best, as we are already doing, to support Healthcare for All Los Angeles. We will do our best to support New York Health Act and all of our coalition partners. And as people let us know more about stuff that they're doing in their own state, this is about building solidarity and understanding that when they said we are in this together, that is really what is meant. We are in this together. So it's the exact opposite when people say, a one-payer state is only doing it for their state. No, that's simply not true. Do not let that narrative stand. It is not true. I have knit 300 or more of these red berets over the last 3.5 years. I have knit them for the national movement. I knit them for the 99% for people that when I think, okay, this can help get this word out there. So, Dr. Dooley and Nina Turner, because they're fierce Medicare for All advocates, Ron Placone, Graham Elwood, Jimmy Dore, Nick Brana, Savage Joy, Scott Desnoyers, Fran. And thank you, Susan Sarandon, for ordering a red beret when you did. And my only thing, if you watch this, is like I want you to have one of these brioche berets. And I know I said that I wanted to give you like this fun tweed yarn. What happened was I wore the one that I had intended to send for you because I had given my other one away, and then my hair like stretched it out to the point that I just don't think I could give you like a secondhand beret like that. But yours, I want to send you another one, and I just really want to thank you for supporting Whole Washington and ordering a red beret. And thank you, and please sign up for Power to Heal. Please share it out with people. That's on the 27th. And I've been talking a really long time. Hopefully I got some of my nerves out. And I'm glad that you guys have been having a good YouTube discussion on here. I can't kind of go look at all of the comments because then I'll just get wrapped in and stay even longer, and I have to go to work and then try to prepare myself for this interview. I'm excited. But all right, take care everybody. Have a good day. Bye. Thank you so much again, Scott, for amplifying and always bringing your voice to amplify. You know, you really do that all the time. Anytime that you see that there's something that I deem as important, like hey, this is like where I'd like to bring some people to see this. You really help out so much with that. I really, 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 really appreciate you. Okay, have a good day.